Hello, my name is Mae Whittick. Welcome to Her Conversations, Tools for the Awakening. Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. This is the optimal state to embody in order to attract your highest desires. What is the awakening? This is the moment in time when humanity rises up out of the darkness. Who is awakening? Each one of us present on the planet today, reclaiming our sovereignty, seeking greater possibilities in our reality and looking for solutions. We know being awakened is not a lofty ideal, but a necessity. If we can transform ourselves, we can change the world. Guests on Her Conversations will speak to your spirituality, sensuality and soul. Listen to their stories, hear how they are in service to the world. Let their words and these conversations embolden and inspire you. This week's episode is a solo episode again, and this is part of me switching up a little bit of the format of the podcast and bringing in more, what we can call it, downloads, more things that I think that are happening in my life that I can share. I feel called to share, and hopefully it might help with this awakening process. As I may have mentioned in previous episodes, when the beginning of this health crisis started, it put a pause on my life that had been kind of spinning in a certain direction, and it just felt like this was the time that I had to turn around and really reevaluate what I was bringing out into the world and push forward in just something that had been niggling in the back of my head to do, and I didn't really know what it was going to look like. And as time has transpired over the past few months, it's become clearer and clearer to me. It's a new space for me to step into. But if I think about where my life has led, and also over the years, I suppose just having an interest and just coming into contact with people who are able to look at you and maybe, just kind of forecast what they think, they feel and see about who you are and what your contribution is. This is not too far removed from what they've said, and also it's not something that I'm walking into without feeling that this is actually something that I want to do. So it's a way of bringing forward something that I could call communication, that I could call healing. But like I said, my life has just given me so many experiences that could have and maybe should have broken me, but if anything, has actually made me stronger and given me an air of, given me a wisdom that I've not always acknowledged, because it's not within everyone, but with the people that I do share with, the kind of the black sheep, the misfits of the world, when I have conversations with them about how they started to move forward and bring themselves forward into the world, it's very similar, and it's time for me to own that really and pass it on to you. And the first thing that I really want to talk about is sovereignty. It's what is sovereignty, and it seems like this is the newest spiritual buzzword. And although it is being used more frequently, it's why we're hearing more about sovereignty. And I personally believe that it's imperative at this time that we find and we adopt our own personal sovereignty. This is something that so few of us can call upon or would even recognize. It's like, how can we tell what our personal sovereignty is? How can we tell who is in their sovereignty and who is not? And in this year of 2020 vision and division, we can really see more so people who are in their truth, in their sovereignty, by the way that people are showing up in the world today. If we kind of take a test and just a glance at the people who are willfully, without question, agreeing to conditions and mandates that are at best confusing and, in my opinion, at its more extreme end, more harmful, than the situations they are supposed to prevent. So the definition of sovereignty is supreme power or authority, a self-governing state. Now, if we apply state to our own personal state of being, then we have to ask ourselves, are we exercising our personal sovereignty, or have we outsourced our state and the governance and the calibration and the measurement of our state to external states? So, for example, are we relying on governments, people who are paid to entertain and divert us, and the media in particular, to feed us whatever information that they choose, knowing that when we adopt these, that because we're creators, this shapes our reality. And as a result, they are able then to veer us into whichever direction they want to. So for me, as someone who's been really trying to work on what sovereignty means to me, recent experiences and recent circumstances gave me the opportunity to display my personal sovereignty, more so to myself than anybody else. And although I would have preferred for the situation not to have happened, it was a great lesson. It was as if I was being challenged to show whether what I had been cultivating within myself had taken hold. So to elaborate on what this was all about, I was in an environment for a few days that had mandated the wearing of masks, but was open to allow for exemptions. So prior to that, I'd communicated that I was exempt, and throughout the communications, we'd agreed that all of this was okay. There was not a problem. Now, just to kind of, not necessarily to justify, but just to kind of like solidify for people who may not fully agree with whether mask wearing is a right or wrong thing, my decision for wearing a mask is based on my own personal research. And the information, the evidence is widely available for anybody who chooses to look for that. But that aside, it was my own common sense and my own trust in my own knowing, my sovereignty, that tells me on a basic level that restricting my breath, prana, life force, is nonsensical. So knowing what I know about breathing and doing pranayama exercises, being a singer and training in breathing, because, you know, this is how we project the voice. This is how we bring life and energy into the body. I know, and prior to me being trained in any of these things, I realised that most people don't breathe at full capacity anyway. If you are somebody to take a breath, they're more likely to raise their shoulders and breathe no deeper than their chest cavity. When you're taking a deep breath, and this is just a general thing, you need to breathe deep into your diaphragm, which is all the way down to your pelvic floor, if you're kind of like need like a visual representation of where it is. And you need every breath, every drop of the breath that you take. So for me, knowing that, then depriving yourself of oxygen is harmful. And then other things like that. When we're inhaling and exhaling, when we're exhaling, it's carbon dioxide. If you have something that is hampering the exhalation, then that is going to then get caught up with warmth and dampness, and for me, again, just using my common sense, is that inhaling carbon dioxide through a damp germ-filled fabric doesn't really seem the best way to fuel the body. And also, as soon as you start to cover and inhibit your own breathing, your body goes into a mildly stressed state. And luckily for us, or that our bodies will push through things for a prolonged period of time without necessarily letting us know that there is a problem at bay, you know, because it wants to continue to move forward. So aside from being uncomfortable, prolonged exposure in this environment can lead to infections, bacterial infections such as staph, in an extreme example, bacterial pneumonia. Also, my foremost concerns about this is what this is doing to the compromised systems of the people who believe that this measure is helping them. In particular, if they're not doing anything other to build their immune systems in preparation for winter. which means that already as they are compromised, then this is going to make them potentially more susceptible for whatever will be circulating at that time. So those are my thoughts and the reasons behind it. So going back to the story, what should have been a respectful acknowledgement of my position actually turned out to be unnecessary daily confrontations. And that ranged from indignation, disrespect to outright self-righteousness, really. And it just became very uncomfortable and very ugly. And of course, yes, it would have been easier for me to just go along with it all, to have a quiet life. But for me to take that stance would have then been an insult to my own soul. I'd made my own decision. I looked at what I thought and what was right for me. And, you know, I would be going against what I believed in order to fit in with the group think. And I didn't agree with what the group was thinking. So if I was going to acquiesce, it would be applauded. It would make everybody around me feel more comfortable. But for me, I didn't want to be part of a group of people who were refusing to ask questions, who then, as a result of taking something on at face value, are then choosing to then police and bully people who are thinking for themselves, standing up for what they can feel in the bones of their soul is wrong. And as well, in these times of suppression and censorship, like we seem to be running out of places where we can actually stand on our own principles and on our own words. That is, if you choose to really discover what that is for you. And this all starts with honouring you. You know, you have to ask yourself, what have you decided about yourselves? Who are you to you? Because once you know what that is and you have that conversation with yourself and you reinforce that, then that builds into your sovereignty. You know, and this is not just a mask issue, by the way. I'm using this example to show a situation where I needed to stand up for myself and my truth. And interestingly, when I spoke to a few other people around me, I discovered that I was not alone in my thoughts. It was just that most people were too afraid. And for me, there can be no other reason to take a stand. And something that I became more aware of, something that was palpable, was the energy of anxiety and fear around me. It was nervous laughter. There was confused resignation. I saw hundreds of eyes looking at me, so confused and on occasion scared. You know, people were stepping back from me. They were asking me if I was afraid of catching this virus. And my answer is no, I never have been. You know, if I truly thought that my life was in danger, I would not put myself in the public arena at all. You know, I've had in my lifetime a lifetime of illnesses from my closest family. And I've witnessed them go from poor health to passing in front of my eyes as a result of not being in control of their health for one reason or another. So that has had an effect on me that has made my health my primary concern. So it's my primary concern to understand as best as I can with the information that's out there how the systems of the body work and how they are supported by diet and lifestyle, mindset. And as a result, I am well. I can't think of the last time that I was ill. So back to this story, and when I viewed the situation with more compassion, my heart really felt heavy for the souls that I witnessed, because that's, after a while, it wasn't just seeing people as the enemy, it was just looking at these people as souls. And because it was evident to me that they were not in their sovereignty, and you know, I was unsure that they had even ever connected to it. They were very much rooted in a third dimensional experience. I saw, and this is how it started to really feel to me, that I was witnessing people who were stripped of their dignity, and also who were unaware of the dignity that they had that was being stripped away from them, and the humiliation that they were experiencing. And what kind of frustrated and really rankled and angered me more is that I'm convinced that there are people who are getting enormous pleasure out of watching what is unfolding on the planet right now, this fear and confusion. And fear is big business. Just look at any advertising. It is rooted in fear of some sort. And this made me more determined to stand in my truth at all costs, because I truly know that over time, as the hidden aspects of the world are revealed to the people, they'll need to see what living in their truth really looks like, because it will be the only way that they will be able to save themselves, if that's what they choose to do, if that's what they came on this planet at this particular point in time to do. Some people just haven't, their experience is to go into a separate way. And just to let you know, it's not easy to be a lone voice, but however difficult it may look and whatever embarrassment you think that you may endure, it's nothing compared to the internal pain and the shame of knowing that you abandoned yourself. And this is how I reckoned it with myself. It's like, I keep repeating this. There is a war happening on the planet right now. And yes, it's not a war of like bombs and rations, but then again, it is in a way. There's a war for our hearts and minds. The tools are things that come straight out of a science fiction movie, but it's the technology is being weaponized against us. It's dividing us to actually fight and war within each other, and we need to be united at this point. But fear will have us retreat and just allow us to acquiesce to whatever crazy restrictions and conditions are put in front of us for our benefit. And this is not the case, I don't believe. And the way that we can fight this, the way that we can be victorious in this, is we need to know who we are and not become beholden to the people who are our abusers. So what is sovereignty about, and how do you discover it? And for me, this is a feeling of absolute personal truth. It is a blessed assurance. This is a song that my mother used to sing, and I just really like that phrase of blessed assurance. It cannot be refuted by anything external, and even if you choose not to live it, your truth is always going to be standing there waiting for you, whether you deviate or not. And in your heart of hearts, I'm sure we all always know what's right from wrong. We know when we're kidding ourselves, no matter what we project out into the world. The media and the supposed education system has been designed to divert us away from ourselves. And that means we have such a low opinion of who we are that we feel that we need something to gauge our worth. And we keep being reminded that we're not smart enough, we're not rich enough, we're not thin enough, we're not successful enough, so much so that we then fail to acknowledge all that we've achieved. We're trying to desperately keep our sanity in an environment that's continually pulling us down. And no matter where you think you are on what the achievement scale is, the fact that you're still around and still trying is an achievement. But this world keeps us in a state of feeling unaccomplished, feeling wanting, and always striving for this next thing that's going to fill us up. So it also means that we then don't know how to handle any praise that may come our way. It feels like a lie. We feel unworthy. We feel conceited if we allow praise to fill us up in the way that it should. If, you've done something, if you look great, if someone just pours love and praise onto you, just soak it up, allow it to fill you and allow yourself to expand. And yet the world wants us to stay small and begging for the little bits that they choose to give us as and when they decide and deem that we are worthy of it. So as a result, then it's that one sniff of criticism that stays with us forever, and that pain will latch onto it, will mark it in the time and the day with an indelible scar that will then choose to revisit and retell that story of the pain that we went through over and over again. So we're more likely to identify with our wounds, not recognizing that they're just markers. They are what shape us. We grow from that. It's not who we are. We can transcend that. In this world where external validation has been the norm, it's like finding this due north of sovereignty within yourself takes work. And it requires that you mute the voices that will tell you that they know better than you what is good for you. So, and to get to this space means moving away from the perceived comfort of the crowd and being with yourself. Not easy for most people. It's listening to your voice. It's becoming familiar with what your knowing feels like. It's as you will, your higher energetic resonance. Displaying sovereignty in the face of mass acquiescence takes courage, because the noise of fear from the external and the uncertainty within you will challenge you. Your inner child will rise up. You'll want it to go away. You'll want the dissent to go away. You'll want the disapproval of other people to go away. You want everyone to play nice and like you. And that's why it's easy to just go along, to get along. And this is when you really find out who is made of what. Like for yourself, it's like, are you in truth? Are you in fear? What is driving your decisions? And society has stifled our ability to rise even in the face of imminent danger. We've been duped, we've been doped, so much so that we cannot even muster up the strength to question within our minds, let alone voice our concerns. Critical thinking requires a lot of brain power. It involves us having to hold on to a number of different possibilities when we are so used to looking to one direction and taking on one narrative and calling it truth. And sometimes, nobody is going to be 100% sure of anything, and we have to learn how to spin mental plates in order to then discern what the truth is for ourselves and form our reality around that. And this is something that I'll dig deeper into on another episode. We need to be reminded of our own power. We need to believe that we can and we deserve to access it. And this way of living is going to come, there's no other way about it, than with some initial rejections. And this is one of the great pains that we will do everything in the world we can to avoid. It can mean that the circle of peers, people, family, friends that you once looked to for approval, when they start to see that you break away and change, they will want to pull you back in, and often this will come as a personal attack. So the people who will be the most vocal will actually probably be the most surprising ones, and potentially as well for them, they may be even surprised by their instant reactions to your changing. And you've got to think, if people are not happy to see you evolve into more of yourself, then this is a clear bond of a clear indication of a trauma bond connection, because you would have formed a relationship with them when you were a lesser version of yourself. And as you then start to move into more of yourself, if they don't like where you're going and they want to kind of pull you back into a certain situation, then this is a conversation, an internal conversation that you need to have with yourself as to at what point in your life and your journey were you comfortable, if you ever were, having this connection. And I speak of this because this is something that I've had to slough away a number of relationships over the course of this year, and some of them have been harder to do than others, and some after a period of time I've realized that this situation, these people, this community, this way of being came into my life at a point where I was not at 100% of my capacity. And that's not to say that I'm there yet either. The choice is yours, and it's whether you want to grow or not. And if you do, then it may be, and it usually is, time to sever ties. And, it may not be forever. It just is for now, because you need space. You need that space, that isolation. And this is a situation that so many of us want to avoid, to actually get to know who you are. And this will be uncomfortable, but this is where you'll connect to that true part of you. You need to become accustomed to your space without distraction. And initially, that's going to be uncomfortable, and then what may often feel like a void of nothing is then filled with infinite possibilities and answers to any question that you may have. So, back to my story. How did I cope with the dissenting voices around me? Can't say I did the best, I was frustrated, I was disappointed, I was sad that I had to continually repeat myself. And like I said, it would have been easier for me to step back and not be that difficult person, but I needed to be that person, and standing out and standing up for yourself sometimes mean that you are the lone voice. It was a stark display of the power that fear-mongering has on the majority and how effective that campaign has been. It also informed, in order for me to move through this, and luckily I was able to communicate with somebody as well, and we were able to just inform them that they were persisting in antagonizing in a way that was like against my human rights. We have human rights. And in particular, when it comes down to the mask issue, there are very clearly in the UK on the government website, if you want to look to it, information as to how and why and when somebody should continually ask and demand that they you show them any form of rights for exemption. So after I continually recalled this and then, told them, if you continue to override my own human rights when it comes to this, I am within my rights to take legal action here. And when they realised that I knew my stuff, it actually came with an apology. I didn't want it ever to go like that, but, that's what it took to just assert what my sovereignty and what my knowing was there. It was an extremely uncomfortable situation for somebody who just likes things to be chill and peace and at more times, but it showed me what I'm here to do. I'm here to not only solidify within myself my own sovereignty, but then also to help people through this awakening with whatever means that I have. And at this point in time, it's my voice, it's my perspective, it's me recalling my messy experiences and how I got through to them. So sovereignty starts with identifying what is true for you. It's a frequency, it's a feeling that we just have to get used to depending on. And the more that you're able to find that and dig into that, the stronger it will grow. And here's a simple way I found of actually feeling into your sovereignty when I was thinking about how I might want to convey this to other people. A simple way to feel into your sovereignty is, firstly, if you can find a time and a space where you'll feel comfortable and you won't be disturbed. And just take however long you need to feel relaxed and peaceful. And just close your eyes and breathe for a few minutes. So just get yourself into a comfortable state, a meditative state. And if you need to use music, that's fine. The idea is just to kind of be at peace and at one with yourself. And then what you want to do is think about something that you know is absolutely true to you. And the easiest thing that you can use is your name. And, just find that and say to yourself continually, my name is, and in my instance, my name is Carol. And I know what it feels like when I'm like, this is who I am, even though on a greater spiritual, if we go into that, we're more than just our name. But just for the sake of this exercise, is like, I know what my name is and I know what I will respond to when it comes to my name. So if I introduce myself as Carol, then I feel much better responding to Carol or Carol Mae than I will do to anything other than that. Obviously, there's nicknames and things like that, but if someone was then to call me Sandra, nothing against Sandra's, but I wouldn't respond to that because that's not true for me. So then going back to your name is notice what it feels like in your body. And this is what your truth feels like. Your truth feels like the space that it feels like when you are thinking about your name and what that feels like. And, there's no right or wrong feeling for anyone. It's like, it's always going to be a different barometer for each person. All you need to do really is just use that as a barometer for your truth. So whatever truth feels like when you're thinking about the truth of your name, just use that as a barometer for your truth, so that then you can then feel into that space at any time and just go, this is what truth feels like to me. So then when you start to apply it to other things, is when it feels true for you, start to attach that situation to that feeling so that you know what your truth is. And it's just something that, a tool, as I said, we've got tools for the awakening here. And maybe this will work for you, maybe it won't, but it's just getting used to using resonance, using feeling as a way of identifying what it is. It's more than words. It's more than external visions. It's something within ourselves. It's internally knowing what truth feels like to us. And once you're able to revisit this place time and time again, and you trust it and you rely on it, it's like anything that you feed, it will grow. So I hope you found that helpful, and my messy experience of being called to really step into my sovereignty, even on a minor level, and how I navigated that. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for listening to this solo episode of Unmasking My Sovereignty. And if you want to find out more about me, you can find out more about me on my website. So that's www.carolmaewhittick.com. You can find me on Facebook under the same name, and then I'm on Twitter, Parler, and Instagram under Kazmic. That's CAZMICK. So find your sovereignty, whatever that feels like, being your truth. This is a great period of time of awakening. I'm so glad that I'm part of this and that I'm really stepping into the purpose that was placed upon my head, and I hope it helps. So enjoy your week, and until next week, have a great one. Bye.